The Legend of Zelda has told many stories about the goddess's creation of the world, but never before have we been given an answer as to why they even created it at all. That is, until now. Echoes of Wisdom reveals that the reason the world was brought into existence in the first place was specifically to imprison Null, a primordial entity that predates the goddess's creation itself. Echoes of Wisdom tells us that before the world's creation, there was naught but a void of nothingness. In the original Japanese version too, this vast empty space is referred to as the world of nothingness, with the original text being Mu no Sekai. However, this Japanese character, Mu, holds a much deeper philosophical significance that goes beyond simple concepts of emptiness. It contains broader underlying nuances that resonate with potential, creation, and the balance between existence and non-existence. This video isn't just about offering alternative translations. Instead, I want to focus specifically on the rich layers of meaning embedded in the Japanese language to uncover what no single translation could fully capture. By analyzing the original Japanese text of Echoes of Wisdom, we'll explore the hidden lore surrounding the void, the nature of Null, the profound implications of the Steel World, a place where both destruction and potential coexist, and much more. Both Ocarina of Time and Echoes of Wisdom explain that before the world was created by the three golden goddesses, there was nothing, only a void of chaos. The Japanese versions of these two games actually use two distinct terms to describe this pre-creation void, with each one carrying a different, deeper meaning. In Ocarina of Time, the term konton is used to describe this chaotic void. This word has roots in Shinto mythology, where it refers to the primordial chaos that existed before the world was formed, a state of formlessness without structure or distinction. In Japanese myth, konton represents a chaotic precursor to order, a necessary phase before creation takes shape, much like the primordial chaos from which the kami, or gods, created the Japanese islands. By contrast, in Echoes of Wisdom, this void is referred to as Mu no Sekai, which can be translated to as the world of nothingness. While earlier I previously described Mu as loosely meaning nothingness, its true significance goes much deeper. Mu represents a philosophical emptiness, a state where distinctions like form and formlessness dissolve, creating a space of pure potential. In short, while konton from Ocarina of Time describes a chaotic, unordered state, Mu no Sekai from Echoes of Wisdom presents a more complex idea, a world of potential that existed before creation, a place where nothingness holds the possibility of both destruction and creation. In Buddhism, Mu represents a state that transcends the dualistic concepts of existence and non-existence. It's not exactly a simple void, but something that exists beyond these distinctions. While konton is seen as the chaotic beginning, a formless, unordered state bursting with energy, Mu embodies a deeper emptiness where both form and chaos are transcended. It comes after or alongside konton. From Mu, creation can arise, but only after all distinctions and attachments have been eliminated. It represents a level of nothingness that isn't chaotic, but serene, full of untapped potential. When we say that Mu is a void full of potential, it's crucial to understand that in Zen Buddhism and Japanese philosophy, emptiness or nothingness isn't viewed as a negative or barren state. Instead, it's seen as a space of boundless possibilities. Within this emptiness, everything that could exist is latent, waiting to manifest. I think it's best to imagine it like an open canvas. Because there are no defined things, anything can emerge. This void is inherently creative, a state open to all possibilities, because it's free from fixed boundaries and labels. I think that the creation story in Echoes of Wisdom illustrates this concept perfectly. The Munosekai is the blank canvas upon which the goddesses decide to paint the world, manifesting it into existence. Without this emptiness, there could be no form, no structure, just as in Zen arts like calligraphy or tea ceremonies, where the pauses or empty spaces are just as important as the actions themselves. These empty spaces create a moment of potential, allowing everything to flow and manifest naturally in its own time. I believe this idea is also reflected in the game's visual design. The scenes in the creation story look almost like a painting, and the colourful, toy-like graphics of the game itself work beautifully with this concept. Thanks to Echoes of Wisdom, we now understand that the reason the goddesses manipulated this creative empty space of Munosekai was to contain the primordial entity Null, which was actively suppressing and limiting the creative potential of this space. In essence, the goddesses didn't simply create the world for the sake of creation. They did so, actually, for a very specific reason: to imprison Null and ensure that its destructive force could not dominate the vast potential of the Munosekai. So perhaps it would be more accurate to say that the goddesses didn't just paint on a blank canvas, but rather they painted over Null, using their creative power to bind and imprison this primordial force within the world that they had shaped. As a consequence, the rifts that appear across Hyrule in Echoes of Wisdom are a direct result of Null's attempt to revert the world back to a state of nothingness, or Mu. In its effort to undo the order created by the goddesses, Tri states that Null has imprisoned them within what is called the Still World. Switching over to the Japanese reveals that the original term used for the Still World is actually the same one used to describe the void that existed before creation, Munosekai. Despite being a place of potential, Munosekai is where distinctions between form and formlessness dissolve, merging everything into a state of non-being. When elements of creation are separated from the order imposed by the goddesses, they too begin to dissolve. This concept is illustrated in Echoes of Wisdom as well, when rifts start swallowing people, causing them to lose parts of themselves, such as what happens to Link when he loses his ability to speak. Tri explains that if they remain in Munosekai, they would fade away entirely, erased from the existence the goddesses created, with no hope of returning to the cycle of creation. Jumping back to what Tri says about the goddesses being imprisoned in the Munosekai for a moment, this idea that the goddesses became trapped in the same void they shaped into existence raises an intriguing question. Does this mean Null is more powerful than the goddesses? I believe there is another important perspective to consider regarding Tri's statement about the goddesses being trapped within the nothingness. In Japanese culture, kami, or deities or spirits, are often closely associated with specific places or objects. Many kami are believed to inhabit natural elements like mountains, rivers, forests, and even specific trees or rocks. These sacred spaces serve as temporary homes or conduits for kami, allowing people to communicate with them through rituals and offerings. In Echoes of Wisdom 2, each of the goddesses, which are also called kami, are closely affiliated with specific parts of the land. For that reason, I think it's very likely then that if those areas have been essentially deleted from creation and are now a void of nothingness, it would make sense that, from the perspective of the Tris and the people in Hyrule, the goddesses are trapped. Of course, after Zelda mends the rifts that had engulfed those lands with the help of Tri, the goddesses are freed and balance is once again restored to the lands they are connected to. One thing that might have caught your attention in Echoes of Wisdom is how Zelda is able to communicate directly with the goddesses. Recall how Zelda is often referred to as a priestess in the English version of the game? Well, the answer to why Zelda can communicate with the goddesses can be uncovered when looking at the Japanese version, which reveals the term miko. In Japanese culture, a miko is a shrine maiden who serves as a spiritual intermediary between the kami and humans. Miko are believed to possess the ability to communicate with divine beings and act as their representatives on Earth. What's interesting is that this isn't the only time Zelda has been referred to as a miko either. She's also called one in Skyward Sword and Breath of the Wild, a topic I've covered the significance of in an earlier video on this channel. In Echoes of Wisdom, Zelda's role as a miko emphasizes her sacred position as a divine intermediary. You can imagine a miko as a being that acts as a bridge between the mortal world and the goddesses, repairing the rifts in creation and ultimately using the Triforce to defeat Null. This reflects the traditional role of a miko in Japanese culture, where they maintain the balance and harmony between the divine and human realms. Interestingly, Echoes of Wisdom never actually refers to the Triforce by name throughout the entire game. Instead, it's frequently called the Prime Energy. This term that appears in the official English translation is an interpretation of this Japanese word, which broadly means great power, tremendous force, or supreme energy, among others. Unlike the name the Prime Energy, the Japanese phrase feels more descriptive rather than being a specific name or title. What's notable is that this exact phrase is also used in Skyward Sword to describe the power that resides within the Master Sword, specifically after it transforms into the true Master Sword once Zelda has blessed it. The goddesses explain to Zelda that the path to the Prime Energy will open for her once she cleanses the rifts that had imprisoned them and receives all three of their sanctions. In Japanese, these sanctions are referred to as akashi, which is also the same term used for the spirit orbs that Link collects after clearing each shrine in Breath of the Wild. This is significant because in a spiritual and philosophical context, the term akashi in Japanese can refer to proof or testimony, especially regarding one's spiritual journey or enlightenment. It is commonly used in Buddhist practices where one's personal realization or awakening can serve as a form of akashi. This may occur through meditation or reflection, as seen in Zen Buddhism, where practitioners seek to prove or confirm their understanding of emptiness, reality, the impermanence of the self, and mu, the very same term we explored at the beginning of this video. The process of reaching this deeper truth is regarded as a spiritual akashi, representing a profound internal validation of enlightenment. This may explain why akashi was localized to spirit orbs in the official English translation of Breath of the Wild, as they represent Link's personal spiritual growth. Similarly, in Echoes of Wisdom, Zelda's collection of the three akashi from the goddesses represents her own spiritual journey and readiness. By receiving these divine validations, she proves her courage, power, wisdom, and enlightenment, allowing her to unlock the path to the Prime Energy, or the Triforce, which can only be accessed by those who have attained true understanding and alignment with the Divine Order. In Buddhism, achieving a state of mu is often a spiritual goal, representing freedom from attachment and suffering. However, Null presents a darker, more nihilistic interpretation of mu, a destructive force that seeks to erase all existence. Its desire to impose mu on the world reverses this by making nothingness a destructive force, as opposed to a path towards enlightenment. I mentioned earlier how in Japanese creation myths, the universe begins in a disordered state called konton before divine forces impose order. If Null originates from Konton, it would mean that it embodies the potential for both creation and destruction. One point that I believe really reinforces this idea comes when Link and Zelda enter the core of Null's very being at the end of the game. Inside, we see what looks like hundreds of tries imprisoned within Null's body. The water section especially felt like Zelda was moving through a kind of bloodstream, with the tries literally merging into the flow, becoming part of it. Not to mention that even Null's core itself resembles a try in appearance. If Null truly embodies both primordial chaos and the Buddhist concept of mu, it would make sense that by feeding on the tries, it gained the ability to manifest its creative potential. This subsequently would explain how Null could create echoes of powerful demons and even demon kings, using them to command the demon tribe and further its goal. With that said, Null's desire to return the world to Mu no Sekai symbolizes more than just annihilation. It represents quite literally the end of the cosmic cycle of creation and destruction found in Japanese cosmology. In these traditions, chaos and order are part of a cycle, but Null's goal, as illustrated in Echoes of Wisdom, is to turn Mu, nothingness, into a permanent state, preventing any possibility of rebirth or recreation. Null's attempt to essentially freeze nothingness contradicts traditional Buddhist and Shinto views, where destruction always leads to renewal. In Buddhism, emptiness or mu is not static, but a dynamic truth of existence. Everything is impermanent and interconnected. While Buddhism sees nothingness as a way to transcend suffering, Null sees it as the end of all things, erasing the possibility of enlightenment or continuity. Hyrule is intrinsically linked to, or rather created within Mu no Sekai, the world of nothingness. However, with Null consuming anything that attempts to manifest, the creative potential of Mu no Sekai is denied. All of this is what makes Null's actions even the more terrifying, as it desperately seeks not just to erase creation, but to end all potential for it to even form, a final, irreversible end. It is for these reasons that I believe Null is distinct from Demise and the demons. While it may manipulate the demons to achieve its goals, demons appear to also be capable of being consumed by the rifts. Furthermore, as a primordial entity, Null itself represents a force beyond their cycle of samsara, the cycle of birth, death, and rebirth driven by desire and attachment. Demons are naturally part of this cycle, and they endlessly try to distort creation to serve their own desires, but Null seeks to end this cycle entirely, returning the world to a devoid state beyond even the reach of the demons.